Illegitimi non carborundum. Why is there a pinball table in my living room? I blame a cloud. Not just any cloud, but a particular cloud passing over a specific spot on the high plains of the Midwest at 11:49 a.m. on August 21st, 2017. The climax of a total solar eclipse is about to begin, and I am in the center of a piece of true Americana just outside Alliance, Nebraska called Carhenge. Yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. Today is the culmination of a plan formulated 4 months ago for my wife, my sister, and myself to drive halfway across the country and gaze in wonder at a celestial phenomenon surrounded by an art installation made from old cars. Sis and I give each other a satisfied smile and nod, knowing that the travails to reach this point have been numerous. The most serious obstacle was wifey recovering from breaking her leg in a freak gardening accident 2 months prior. She is now part cyborg thanks to the metal bits surgically attached to her bones. The crowds are another challenge, since a kitschy attraction that typically averages fewer than a dozen visitors per day is now swarmed by thousands of people who had the same idea as I did. Alliance itself has a population of around 9,000, but over 50,000 people converged on the area for this glorious day of days. The eclipse starts, and we don the special glasses we have, but it's going to take about an hour to reach totality, so we swap between glasses on to check the moon's progress across the sun, and glasses off to people watch the crowd around us. With less than a minute before totality, everyone has their glasses on, and it looks like it is happening at last. A cheer rises up from the throng until 2 seconds later when someone realizes it's just a cloud passing in front of the moon and sun. The disappointment is palpable, and a nervous unease overtakes the masses. Are we going to be cheated of the spectacle we'd come so far to see by a stupid, random cloud? No! The gods favor us, and the cloud passes just seconds before totality commences. There, on the prairie, in the midst of a 360-degree sunset, in the center of a replica of Stonehenge rendered in cars that had been started after a guy had had just enough beers at a family barbecue to make the project seem like a good idea, the thousand-strong mass of humanity is united in celebrating a marvel of the heavens. I behold, in literal slack-jawed wonder, the most awesome cosmic event I have ever witnessed. The traffic getting out of Alliance is a bitch and a half. Riding the high of the day, I check to see when the next total solar eclipse will hit the US, and start counting down the days until April 8th, 2024. The next 6 years pass, and we again plan and drive and end up in Washington, Indiana for the big day. Walking around downtown Washington ahead of the event, Sis and I pass a tattoo shop, and we look at each other and smile as we each simultaneously have the idea of getting an eclipse tat. We opt against it as I don't want to make the return drive with fresh ink. The day after we get home, I head to the closest of the 7 tattoo shops that my city, with its population of only 15,000 people, somehow supports through an arcane and unfathomable lust for ink. Justin is the artist working in that shop that day, and he does an admirable job reworking an existing sun tattoo I had on the front of one shoulder and adding the new eclipse design to the front of the other shoulder. It was important I get the tattoos when I did because the time when they would be healed coincides with the planned installation date of the new hot tub wifey and I had ordered 2 months prior. So now I'm physically itching from new tattoos and metaphorically itching for our new spa. We get word that there is a snag at the manufacturer and our hot tub delivery would be delayed a month. If I ever want more tattoos, this is the time to get them. Now it seems that the tat I have on one ankle could be balanced out with something on the other ankle, so back to Justin I go. 5.5 hours of work results in the existing ankle tat being refashioned into a more elaborate design and a fresh piece inked onto the other ankle. Justin and I chat during the process, and he asks if I like pinball. Ever since I was a young boy, I played the silver ball. Actually, no, that is not accurate. Growing up in the 1980s, my family was relatively poor, and the few times I had some quarters to blow in an arcade, I would almost inevitably choose a video game over whatever pinball machines were around. The exceptions were Haunted House, because I liked the spooky theme, and the fact that it had 8 frickin' flippers. 8 flippers! And Hercules. That table was so big that I had to play with my sister, with each of us controlling one flipper. When I was 16, the miniature golf place I worked at added a game room, including a few pinball tables. Employees were supposed to pay for game tokens just like regular customers, but I buddied up with a manager who wasn't known for adhering to corporate policy and got access to all the tokens I wanted. I still favored the video game cabinets, but one pinball table had a flow I liked enough to practice on it and eventually achieve some proficiency. The Addams Family. 30 years passed without my playing a physical pinball machine, though I played some digital emulations of real tables by way of various home video game consoles. After moving to a fairly rural location in 2021, I found a pinball arcade about an hour away where you could play as much as you wanted for a flat admission fee. I'd never encountered an arcade with all machines set to free play before. I never even knew the term free play before that. So I resolved to check that place out at some point. I ended up going there in the fall of 2022 and January of 2024. And playing once a year or so likely would have been the extent of my experience with physical tables, were it not for the whims of fate, chance, or choice that brought me to the moment when Justin asked if I liked pinball. I answer him, sure, pinball's fun. He tells me there's a pinball arcade only 10 minutes away, and they're having a tournament the following week. I go to the tournament, I have a great time, I become one of the frequent customers, I make friends with the owners and the other regulars. I keep competing in the tournaments they hold regularly, I hone my skills, I rope wifey into going, and I just have a ball with this hobby and a great group of folks I find there. Even in tournaments, the real competition is between myself and the machine rather than other players. Each table is generally the same size and shape, but the variety of gameplay contained within the prescribed space is nigh infinite. The ball is an instrument of chaos, and flippers, plunger, and table nudging are your tools to impose order on chaos and direct the ball to where you want it to go. But what to aim for is different on every table, and learning the intricacies that allow you to score higher or unlock different modes is an exploration process that makes every new machine an exciting journey into unknown territory. Pinball is the illusion of control in a box. 6 months after I first walked in, the owners announced they're closing the arcade. I'm now a junkie whose source is about to dry up and has to find a new connection to get a fix. Sure, there's the other place an hour away, but I'm spoiled by the proximity of what had become my new favorite hangout. I asked the owners what they'll do with the tables when they shut down. They say they'll put some in their home, but others will have to go into storage. I make a proposal to rent one of the tables from them, so they can at least still make some money on it while figuring out what to do with their collection in the long run. A bargain is struck, and now there is a pinball machine in my living room. If Justin hadn't mentioned pinball on my second visit to him, I would never have found that arcade. If our hot tub had been delivered on the originally scheduled date, I wouldn't have seen Justin a second time. If someone other than Justin had been working the first time I visited the tattoo shop, I wouldn't have found the arcade. If a different tattoo parlor were closer to my house, I wouldn't have talked to Justin. If I hadn't walked by a tattoo shop in Washington, Indiana, I wouldn't have had the idea for an eclipse tattoo. If the cloud had spoiled the eclipse at Carhenge, I wouldn't have ended up traveling for a second eclipse. One cloud, moving when it did, or lingering just a little longer. That was the difference between a living room with a pinball table and one without. I blame a cloud. Furthermore, Carthago delenda est.